This is the Going Easy on Earth podcast, and welcome to another audio edition. When it comes to emissions and transportation, we often think about tourism, all the travel that we take day to day basis, commute to work, the airlines that is going around. Now, all of these do emit greenhouse gases, and there also is a carbon footprint. But our food, which comes to us, also travels a certain distance, and we are talking about that. Today, we are talking about food miles. So, the first fundamental question is, what is food miles?
It's a unit of measurement of the fuel used to transport a food item from the producer to the consumer, or producer to plate, you can say, because sometimes you even order food to eat, a takeaway food. So everything counts here. So the food item that travels the distance from the producer's end to the plate, to your plate.
So, this can be an ingredient, this can be a complete item, and like you said, it can also be a takeaway. When was the first time that you heard about this concept of food miles?
I was teaching this home gardening classes to my students when I was trying to actually convince them why they should grow their kitchen garden, at least a few items, day to day, or green leafy vegetables or something which can be easily grown. So at that time, it struck me that I have to explain to them, because this target group was a urban target group. So they need to know how our food is also impacting the environment. Not only the production, but the transportation of food from the producer to the consumer end.
Of course, if you grow your food in your backyard, on the terrace, in the balcony, it makes sense that the distance is going to be very minimal coming straight into your kitchen. But it's not always possible to grow every single ingredient that we need, and in urban areas, it becomes a little difficult. So when we talk about food miles and the impact that it has, what exactly is the impact on the environment?
See, globally, food miles account for nearly 20% of the total food systems emissions. Whatever you transport, or you take your own vehicle and go around, or you fly in whatever manner, the food travels or you travel, it is an impact on the environment because you are burning the fossil fuels. You are emitting the greenhouse gases. All this is likely to have an impact, and it is having an impact now. It is becoming more and more prominent now, and everybody has recognized this, that the global warming, all this. So yes, your food miles also account because of the greenhouse gas emissions and the pollutions from various mode of transport the food goes through, either through trains or planes or sea route, through ships, whichever mode.
A few years ago, there was a very interesting survey done where a few children were asked, where is your food coming from? And one of the popular answers was, it is coming from the supermarket. Now, even as adults, I think most of us might not know where every ingredient is coming from, which is perfectly fine. But just being more mindful about the distance that even our ingredients travel also can help. And there are different layers to it. You can probably buy something directly from a farmer. You can probably buy something from a supermarket. So there's an extra distance added, and you're probably ordering online. So at every layer, there is some addition to the food mile. This also brings us to the overall concept of eating locally. What are the benefits of eating locally, particularly when it comes to this concept of food miles?
As you said, if it is grown locally, they are fresh, they are seasonal, and you don't need to preserve them. It's a lot of preservatives are not added to your food, and you can food safety is promoted this way. It stimulates variety, and it also supports your community's economy, the local economy, and it creates a sense of community. So not only that, Ayurveda also stresses upon having seasonal food and locally available food, because your body is suitable to that kind of a production, that kind of a local and seasonal food, rather than having something which is not grown in that season but being transported from elsewhere and made available to you in the supermarkets and other big niche markets where all kinds of food 365 days it's available to you.
And just to add to that, I think when food is transported over a long distance, there also is a refrigeration which sometimes is required. There is more energy which is spent. There is packaging which is required. So here in Hyderabad, we all sometimes see each individual apple has a foam mesh around it so that it is transported in one piece, there's no damage. And that foam mesh again adds to the overall pollution. We see dragon fruits which are sold in individual packets. So each fruit is packed in a plastic package. There are so many different concepts which are coming here, along with, of course, the pollution. When we talk about food in general, it is one of the most controversial topics. There are so many debates happening around it. And the similar question when it comes to food miles, are there any food items which have more food miles, and are there any which have less food miles?
See, one way, it's a good way to look at environmental impact of food is not only the food, the product, but the ingredients. For example, you take the simple ingredient that we use every day in our Indian cuisine, that is our jeera. So this actually it is available in Rajasthan and those areas in the north. But all of us use it every day. Just taking one ingredient into account itself, you can understand that it has to travel that distance and come. Not only the food that you eat, but also getting the waste food away from you to the landfills and all the packaging that you just now described. All that accounts for, transporting your waste to the landfill. Even their emissions are, bound to happen because you have to transport that waste too.
That is true, and it is hard to say one particular ingredient or one particular fruit, vegetable or meat has more food miles. It depends on where you live. It's a regional aspect as well, at the same time how much distance it is traveling. Now, as an individual, what can we do if we are to be more conscious about reducing food miles? How can we be more sustainable?
One, you opt for your locally available food items. One. Second thing, what I would suggest is let us not go for all those come with so much of packaging material around it. The package attracts you, no wonder, but it is, you have to think about your planet too. So it has got an impact. When you understand what impact it has, then very consciously you have to reduce, you have to reuse, you have to recycle. All these should come into our mindful way of living. That is how you can live mindfully.
Yeah, I think we can also look at what is grown seasonally. Like there are certain fruits and vegetables which come in winters, certain thrive in summers. So that probably is one way to go. And just understanding where we live and what is available around us is something that we can be more conscious of and kind of fine tune our purchases. And we spoke about this last time where we have examples where people come together and source their ingredients from a farmer directly, or there are all of these big housing societies which have few people, farmers coming and delivering directly. So that also certainly helps, and pooling with others, families joining can definitely bring this down.
But, apart from all these pooling, we also tend to buy exotic avocados, imported coffee, tropical passion fruits, and a rare variety of berries from our supermarket. They all have severe impact on the planet. So transportation of food is costing us more than ever before. It is the cost of climate change, resource depletion, and ultimately human health.
In fact, that is one of the marketing strategies where we often see that a certain ingredient is brought in from, there is walnuts from California or cocoa from Ghana, and all of these things are advertised, and it's becoming a trend to actually go in the opposite direction where you're getting ingredients from different parts of the globe. And that is something we definitely need to be more mindful about. Now, there are tech interventions in almost every single aspect of our lives. Is there any technology intervention when it comes to mitigating food miles?
Yes, if technology can be used properly, it can help you with optimization solutions that can connect you with your other stakeholders such as suppliers, customers, donors, or recyclers. All this technology can connect us. For example, you can use platforms that can help you source locally, seasonal, or surplus food from farmers or wholesalers. All this technology can connect us. So we can use technology to know what is the best available food item or ingredient locally, so that we can source it locally instead of going in for items that come from far away distances. Because see, for each food item, it may not work out. I cannot explain to you which item has got a high food mile or a low food mile. Item that travels by road compared to air or rail or sea can all vary. So they say carbon emissions are 60% if they travel via road, to rail 20% to 10% sea. So as you can see, 10% to 60, from 60% to 10% just come down the emissions. So then we cannot compare like that this food item, it could have traveled by air or by sea. So it makes a lot of difference. Hence, what the simple solution could be is use technology, source what is locally available, and the best thing that is available if technology can help us out.
Yep, and that again depends on where you are living, the region you are, what is locally available. That really is a good way of using tech. And are there any government policies which help with this aspect? Any good examples that you have seen where we can bring down food miles?
See, totally you cannot rule out food miles. Let us be very realistic in this. Anyway, as you know, people who are living in the urban areas, we are far away from the farming community who live in the rural areas. At the best, what we can do is adopt a farmer or have a group of farmers supplying you, or you go to your local market and buy. Instead of getting the whole thing from your supermarket and from exotic markets where high quality, what is supposed to be high quality, will burden the planet Earth. So if we are mindful of that, and if we are mindful of how we are disposing of the waste, all this will matter a lot in reducing the food miles.
In fact, even looking at something which is sourced naturally or something which is processed, all of those, every step that the ingredients and fruit, meat, anything go through adds more to this chain that is there, that is of the food miles. Comes back to the basic fundamental: see what is available locally, see what is available fresh, and purchase that. And being a little mindful can help in a long way. It is, as I think we can safely say, that it's impossible to source everything locally, but at the same time, it's also possible to make a good shift and bring down the overall food miles. At the same time, supporting a lot of local economies, local farmers, and all of these wonderful things.
Yes.
And as we wrap up this discussion, anything else that you would like to share on food miles, something that you've come across? Because like you said at the beginning, this topic came up when you started teaching people about growing fruits, vegetables nearby their place, kitchen gardening, home gardening, to be precise. Anything else that has really stood out to you, or any other examples that you would like to share?
Yeah, one thing when I was advising my participants to grow, but I also stressed upon that even if they visit a supermarket, see, everything cannot be sourced again locally. Some things you might have to go to supermarket. There I could advise them to at least look at the label properly and find out if they are local food items or GMOs, genetically modified items. So all these needs, you have to be more aware. This is what I can say. And I also say one thing very often to my participants is, see, this body of ours, it is dependent on the environment. This I again stress, because we live in the environment and we draw the food, the water and the air from the environment to keep ourselves alive. We are not separate from the environment. So they call it as the body as Pranamaya Kosha and the environment as Annamaya Kosha, because Annamaya is you get all the essentials to live here. So if your environment, if you are going to spoil it, you're going to make your landfills so dirty and where you cannot be alive on this planet. Now, I feel as you go forward at this stage, our lives will be threatened if we don't care for the environment. We have to keep the environment clean and neat and fresh. That is what I tell my participants and make them more aware about it.
And with that, we wrap up this conversation on food miles, and it is all about us being a little bit more mindful. Stay tuned, lots more coming up with Uma. This is me, Abhishek. Thank you for listening. This is Going Easy on Earth.